What would you say to people? What would if you had a soapbox?
Okay. The way I always frame things for mayors and prime ministers is I would go and try and find the most marginalized person in Canada, and I would try and find out what they need to, lead a life that makes them feel like they're doing all right and like they have the support they need to do the things that make them happy.
On social issues, Quebec is for the majority, for the poor, and for equity, distribution of wealth. The rest of Canada has been less so, okay?
But the most marginalized person, if you make their life better, then you affect a lot of the people that are less marginalized by that than them. The same changes that they need are things that a lot of other people need. So, for instance, if we're talking about refugees and we're talking about making policies that make it easier for refugees to get into Canada, especially when they're facing really violent situations, in a way that isn't really stressful for them, it would affect a lot of different immigrants who are coming to Canada, and it would really humanize the process for a lot of different immigrants.
And the rest of Canada has attracted immigrants, English-speaking immigrants, and inculcated the neoliberal ethos of making money quickly, being very business savvy, and therefore heading towards a more conservative view of the economy. Quebec attempts it in big cities, but essentially it is not that.
Yeah.
Or, if we talk about in the queer community, for instance, if we talk about one of the most marginalized people are trans women of color. And if we got our society to accept them and not hurt them in so many violent ways that happen constantly, it would affect trans women, it would affect flamboyant men, it would affect a lot of different kinds of people, and not just the most marginalized population.
You see, I think before it was easier to have a leader kind of determine where everybody would fit. I think today, the more you know who you are and how you fit, the more you'll reach out to people who can have a common goal. And then you're sharing the power, but you're still a leader within the group if you wish, because I think leadership is purely to inspire others to reach for their best selves.
Whereas I think in a lot of ways, the politicians that I see, the way that they think about it is, they want to help the middle class. They want to help the people that are doing pretty good, but they could be doing as good as the rich people. And that really, it gives us just only like small incremental changes that really affect only a very few people. Whereas if you go to the people who are having the roughest time and you try and make their lives better, you actually implement huge changes. You really change the way the structure is formed, and you make it so that people aren't ever going to be in that situation of like really roughing it, really having a tough time. And that would be what I would do if I was in the Prime Minister.